Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today, Giannis Antetokounmpo's days in Milwaukee may be numbered. What are we talking about? Well, as you guys know, if you've been following the NBA, many NBA teams, fans around the country have been hoping, wishing, dreaming that there would be one day where Giannis would say, you know what, I do not want to be in Milwaukee anymore. And that day may have already happened. So I'm going to walk you guys through this whole situation because today, Brian Windhorst went on to a radio station in Cleveland and said that this offseason, Giannis asked for a trade out of Milwaukee. He asked for a trade to the Knicks. I'll show you guys that clip here in a second, but I'm going to first show you guys what prompted this conversation even happening on the radio. So first off, this is kind of what happened. Tuesday, everyone was freaking out because Giannis on the internet sleuth detectives found out that Giannis on his Instagram and on his X account had deleted every post Milwaukee Bucks related dating back to 2021. Now, there's some people out there that might be like, well, this doesn't mean anything. Like, he's just deleting stuff. What does that mean? It does mean stuff because this is kind of how athletes like communicate today. That's just how they do. We've seen LeBron do it in the past. We've seen Kyrie do it in the past. We've seen Kevin Durant do it in the past. We've seen Giannis do it in the past. In fact, Giannis this summer when they did the move where they cut Damian Lillard, extended his contract, they signed Miles Turner, was posting a bunch of stuff on Twitter about how excited he was or appeared excited for that move for the Bucks to acquire Miles Turner. So the fact that he is doing this and Giannis is an active social media member is definitely kind of, sounding the alarms a little bit like, hey, what the heck is going on? Especially since the Milwaukee Bucks are not having that ideal of a season. So that happened on Tuesday. I'm recording this Wednesday, by the way. So this prompted Brian Windhorst was on a ESPN Cleveland radio show, and they were talking about Giannis, and he drops a gigantic bombshell that Giannis, before the season, asked the Bucks to move him to the New York Knicks. So let's go ahead, listen to this clip from Brian Windhorst and the guys from ESPN Cleveland here.
The
and then
Bucks
we'll react
called
after.
the Knicks and asked for an offer for Giannis. Okay,
and
because Giannis said, "I want to be a Knick." So people are like, "Oh my God,
Giannis said, I wanted to be a Knick."
deleted a photo from May where he had a Bucks logo. Guys, he asked to be traded already.
Yeah. So when's it going to happen?
Well, that's the thing. So what appears is that Giannis committed himself for the season to the Bucks. That's what appeared happened. Everything he said in his mood. But the Bucks are not good. This year, when he hasn't played, they're 1-5. And when he has played, they're 9-8. So they've been 500 when he's played, and when he hasn't played, they've been getting raced. What you're asking me is his viewpoint? Would his viewpoint change? I don't know. Like I know that he asked for a trade, and then he said, "Okay, I'm going to be a Buck this year." I know that a lot of people in the league don't think he'll be a Buck next year.
Absolute bombshell to just kind of piggyback on what Windhorst said. He said he asked to be traded already. He already asked the Bucks to trade him to the Knicks. The Knicks is kind of a hard place to trade because of the way that they have their salaries, because they got Bridges on a big salary, Anunoby on a big salary, Brunson on a big salary, Cat on a big salary. So I don't know if that's even feasible. But this is incredibly interesting here because Giannis has been a guy that has kind of waffled and wavered on his future in Milwaukee a few times before. This happened, before they won their first title, where Giannis was kind of waffling, wavering on his decision. They go ahead, they make a big move, trade for Jrue Holiday. Giannis signs an extension. A few years later, that obviously works out perfectly. They win the title. A few years later, they're getting knocked out of the first round by the Miami Heat in embarrassing fashion. And kind of the same thing. Giannis is waffling and wavering. Hey, maybe I'll sign this extension. Maybe I won't. They trade Jrue Holiday for Damian Lillard. Giannis is like, okay, you got me, Dame. Here's another extension. We had that same exact thing happen again this summer. I can't remember the exact timeline on all of this stuff, but remember there was like pictures of Giannis like walking around like New York with his wife, and it's like, well, wait a minute, why is Giannis just walking around New York? This is very interesting here. He might have even posted that stuff too, if my memory is correct. And what happened was the Bucks were like, okay, Giannis, we're going to chop off our hand to show you how much we love you. We're going to cut Damian Lillard. We're going to stretch out his contract for the next 5 years, basically setting $15 million a year on fire for the next 5 years in order to sign Miles Turner. Are you happy now? And as I alluded to earlier, Giannis seemed to be happy about it. He was posting stuff on social media about how excited he was that they had Miles Turner, and he was happy about the direction of the Bucks. And then we had all of these weird reports over the summer where Shams was like, Giannis is open to having his future places and stuff. He's open to ideas and stuff, bro. And it was kind of like all these reports where it's like, okay, what does he mean by this? Is he like, I even got to a point where like, is ESPN just having Shams just go on TV and like just kind of try and like stir up some buzz about Giannis? Or is it actually Shams is like maybe saying all he can say, but there's maybe other stuff that Shams knows that he can't actually report? Well, we found out today that all of the people, because I think most of the people looked around the NBA and they looked at the Bucks and they were kind of like, yeah, you got Miles Turner. Yeah, you got Bobby Portis. Yeah, you got Kyle Kuzma. Like, I don't know if this team can compete for a title, really. Maybe in a depleted Eastern Conference with Giannis as the best player. Maybe this team can actually, do kind of like a LeBron 2018 Cleveland, and they can go to a finals appearance that way. And maybe that's enough to suffice Giannis, especially since Giannis has won a title already. So it's not like he is leaving to go and chase getting that coveted number one NBA title. He has that already. But it does kind of make sense that he doesn't want to stay there, and it's nothing against the city of Milwaukee. I've been to a bunch of Milwaukee Bucks games. I love the Pfizer Forum. Trust me, I love that little area over there. I love all of the little bars and restaurants around there. It's a lovely, lovely place to go if you want to go to an NBA game. But it makes sense that like Giannis, if you really kind of look at his career, it's been a lot of one and done exits in his career where he basically, it became the point when he became MVP level. They have that year where they go to the conference finals against the Kawhi Toronto Raptors. They're actually up 2-0 in that series. And then, the Raptors come back, they win the next 4 games. And then we know that the Raptors obviously win the title that year. The next year, I believe they were one and done. The next year after that, they go and win the title. And since then, the year after that, they lost in a 7-game series to the Celtics. But other than that, those are the only 3 years in his, 12-year career, 12, 13-year career now at this point. I might be shortchanging a year there, where he's actually won a playoff series and went on kind of a run in the playoffs. So it makes sense that Giannis is like, hey, man, I'm in my prime. I'm still in my prime right now. I don't know how many years I'm going to have left competing at this level, especially, too. I heard this stat the other day, guys. So Nikola Jokic's, I believe it's the year that Jokic actually lost the MVP to Joel Embiid. Jokic had the number 1 PER in NBA history, single season PER, player efficiency rating in NBA history. This year, Jokic is crushing that number. He's number 1. Giannis is also ahead of Nikola Jokic's all-time great year 3 years ago where he had the PER record. Giannis is also better than that with PER right now. Like, he's having an all-time great season. He is still at an all-time great level. And it makes sense that Giannis is kind of looking around and going like, I should be competing for a title right now. I saw Kevin Durant have this crappy situation in Phoenix, and all of a sudden he's in Houston right now. Maybe I should have done that. Like, it makes sense. It makes sense. He's a competitive guy. Almost too competitive at times where he's like so amped up at the beginning of games where they kind of have to somehow like, hey, Giannis, calm down. That's kind of why they brought his brother back. That was another thing you kind of thought that maybe things were okay in Milwaukee this year. It's like, oh, they brought his brother back, which they obviously have a very, strong, family is obviously very important to them. But it makes sense. Now, if you're talking about teams, I was thinking about this too. I saw Bill Simmons basically kind of threw out yesterday. The Spurs are obviously an option because they got picks. They got young players like Castle and Harper. The Hawks are an option because they have, I believe they could get a pick back that is theirs. It's either the worst pick of the Pelicans Bucks pick, which will probably be, if they don't have Giannis, be a valuable pick, plus the Pelicans unprotected pick this year. They could offer them that if they want to do that trade. this season, and basically could lock up the chance to get like a very high chance to get a top 4 pick. And then they also probably give contracts back too. Like you can get Kristaps Porzingis is expiring and trade Giannis to Milwaukee. Another team that I thought about, and this is another team that's been in some player sweepstakes and lost. The Miami Heat. Miami Heat quietly this year are one of the best teams in the East, at least. Like I believe they're like a 4 or 5 seed right now. They might even be 3. Again, I haven't looked at the contracts on how that would work out. But it's going to be very, very interesting because, again, we are in the very early stages here of the potential Giannis sweepstakes. Like Windhorst said there in that interview, it seemed like Giannis was committed to the Bucks this year. People around the NBA think that there could be a big move this summer. Stay tuned. I guess we'll have to wait and see to find out. That's going to do it for this episode here today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you hit like, hit subscribe. Like I said, leave a comment. Feel free to check out the rest of the Sports Detective podcast channel. Wasn't focusing on NBA this much this week because we've had a whole bunch of college football drama that we've been breaking down. So if you're into that, feel free to check out other videos on this channel for that. If not, we're going to be breaking down a bunch of NBA stuff, especially trade rumors like this stuff with Giannis as the season goes on. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of that. Thank you for watching. Talk to you next time.